Charles, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear
How
you.
are you? I am so sorry. I've already apologized to everybody that's listening. And that is my fault. And it is a moment of panic. At the very last second, you think you have everything ready and you go,
Yeah,
oh my God, the most important thing.
that's okay. That's okay.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
it's good.
awfully
It's
nice
good.
to meet you.
It's very nice to meet you, Chris. Thanks for your comments and positive input on my various social media uh, accounts. Yes, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm just kind of like pinching myself. I can't believe I'm actually talking to you. I've been following you for quite a bit. I love
Okay.
your work, and it is just
Oh,
that. It's your work, and I'm a fan of your work. I've watched a number of your videos with Guy Anderson and Campbell Purvis and
yeah.
others, and of course a lot of your reels and TikToks. And I love your research, and I'm so happy I'm able to share your information, your wisdom with my audience. So, if you wouldn't
Yeah.
mind, just sort of give us a little background how you got started here. Maybe even like just give us a little context of where you are in the world right now.
Yeah. Okay. So my name is Charles Ross. I have had a very interesting life uh, um, so far. so um, as a child, I actually grew up in communist Germany, so DDR, the German Democratic Republic, and I I left there pretty much the same week that the wall fell. You know, the Berlin Wall.
Yes.
So so that was like a crazy moment. One of my first like memories, various family members like running around the house where we were staying at the time. For some reason, we were staying with my uncle in a town called Schulzendorf, and we were actually in Germany, kind of like um, uh, being visited by my stepfather, who was from Scotland and who kind of was able to go over the wall constantly to visit my mother. And then, yeah, as soon as we were able to, we moved to the UK, where I kind of went to school and grew up. Yeah, it was me and my brother and my mother, and that was a big shock because we weren't learning English. That was not the curriculum. It was Russian and German back in the Deutsche Demokratische Republic. So getting to the UK was a real change from living in a country that was very kind of very controlled. Like you couldn't leave the country, for example, much like it is in sort of North Korea now.
Mm.
But I mean, it was quite a normal sort of upbringing. You would go to school. You would you know. Pretty much everything is the same as a modern Western lifestyle, apart from the fact that it's a communist regime, and there is absolutely no freedom. Like people could come into your house anytime they wanted to. The police,
Mm.
you know, the secret police.
Mm.
Like even Bible study was not really allowed. You weren't allowed to study the Bible in your house. There was some really crazy strict rules like that that I remember
Wow.
from those early years. So after that, I then kind of went through university in the UK, then ended up traveling Africa, Asia, back to Europe a lot, and ended up moving to East Asia, where I've been living for about 17 years in the Republic of China, which is also called Taiwan, used to be called Formosa. And not many people are that well aware of the history here. I think the only really kind of clear history goes back about 120 years, and then there's a lot of sort of European empires that kind of took over. and there's some crazy architecture that you don't expect to see in Asia. So that was where I think my journey began. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
That's what
and then going back to visit family in Germany is kind of strange because then you suddenly realize that you have Chinese architecture in Germany, especially like Potsdam near Berlin. Obviously Chinese architecture, and then you have like architecture in the UK that's identical to that in Taiwan, and again that's identical to. And then you see the connections. You start doing research, and you find connections that through this Tartaria kind of door that's open to us. Through that research, you then find links to Hyperborea, to the resets, to this is why these buildings are all half underground, why we have no explanation how they were built, why the history is just not sufficient. We're being told, these buildings were built in like 2 years sometimes. It's, obviously these took decades to build, but there's no real explanation as to how they were built. So I think finding solutions constantly, I'm being blessed by some higher consciousness, some powerful entities that are constantly giving me the answers, and also people in their comments too. So there's a lot of links to other people because people connect each other really well. I find, especially on Facebook. So I mean, obviously, there's a lot of negatives on social media, right? But there's a lot of negative influence. There's a lot of people that are paid to just harass you, basically. But I think that's very much the frontier now. That's the new frontier. I think everybody's gravitating towards this because there's some very powerful truths here. So if people's attention goes in this direction, then I think that's where the energy is going to flow. Like a lot of
mm.
people's energy is going into this now, and
When did
yeah, it's a very exciting
yeah.
time to be alive.
It really
Yeah.
it feels like that. It does feel like Charles, what was there something that was like the catalyst for you? Was there a book? Was there a guide? Was there somebody you listened to that just sort of like, "Oh, I can't get enough of this." That started this sort of momentum.
Yeah, yeah. I had a very powerful deja vu like experience in Taiwan, and it was so powerful that I felt like I was missing out or I was not doing what I should be doing. And then I realized why I'm in Taiwan.
Oh,
And
we're losing you for here.
sorry, is it okay?
There we go. Oh, we lost you for just a second. So it was I think you
Okay.
started you had a deja vu
Yeah,
moment.
like a deja
Okay.
vu. That's how I explain it. But it was like a sort of more of like an out of body thing, where I saw myself
Mm.
walking somewhere, and I felt very strange. I felt like I'd been there before. So that's
Mm.
I think deja vu is the best way to explain it because I felt like I've been there before, and
Mm.
the it was a railway line, and then later on I found out that the railway was actually excavated out of the ground as opposed to built, and that was very powerful. That was in a town
Mm.
called Beigang, and there's a very old temple there, one of the oldest temples in East Asia. Very large temple, looks like a star fort. The whole temple has got walls, like military walls around it, and that was insane. That was insane. It was a very powerful moment, and I looked at everything differently after that. I looked at Taiwan differently. I looked at the culture. I started to see connections between the gods and the Indian gods and the Greek gods and the Roman gods. I realized that the big god on top of the temple was called Matsu, and I realized she was the protector of sailors, and she was on a snake. And then I realized that that's Medusa. So, so again, I mean, I'm gonna have to write all this down and connect it to like reference it all. But I keep doing more research, and it's hard to focus on one thing because there's so many different things. So then you have like these cities that have these skyscrapers in France where I've been. So then you have those also in Taiwan, like prayer towers. So that makes you think that that's like one civilization, and uh, and I think people who are currently like Buddhists do embrace all of that. And the temples are really old. They're ancient temples, and they are all obviously this old land called Tartaria, which, for those who are new to this theory, They had a specific type of architecture, a specific way of using frequency and light, and the materials that they used to build their temples was very much uh, uh, sort of under this all-encompassing belief that there's electricity to be pulled out of the air, which is called chi energy in China, or etheric energy, if you like, and to pull this energy out of the air and to then combine that with layers of specific type of stones that are magnetic.
Mm.
So whenever I go somewhere, I'm thinking, does it have that knowledge? Does it have what I call the Tartarian knowledge, or the Moorish knowledge, if you like?
Mm.
Is it layering the stone to be electric magnetic? And there are still churches, cathedrals, Buddhist temples doing that today. So that's a very advanced type of knowledge that we today don't really understand, right? Or the people who do understand it are building, power stations using that knowledge, but they're not telling us about it. And
Mm.
then, my research continued into Russia, because Russia is also part of the old Tartaria, and that's basically where I am now. I'm kind of looking at the monarchy, looking at how many generations can we go back with the monarchy, especially the British monarchy, was very important, because the British monarchy is still here today. Whereas a lot of monarchies were completely eliminated, like the French, right? You had the French revolutions in the 1800s, then you had the Bolshevik revolutions in Russia. So where were the revolutions not happening? And that was
Mm.
Germany, because the German royal family ran away to Britain because it's easier to defend. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
So
does that make sense the way I've been
yeah.
explaining it?
Oh
Because
yeah.
sometimes
No,
I
it
go
it
off.
absolutely does. And I know exactly what you mean, that there's a lot of avenues that this research and, life we choose can take you. And yeah, sometimes it's
Yeah.
hard to weave it all together. I actually just I had this just
Mm.
moment this morning where I was like, I've kind of downplayed my sort of awakening a little bit. Like, and
Yeah.
I've always sort of had this like, well, yeah, it was 2020, I kind of really started like dig, but actually it was way before that. It was influenced by,
Mm.
mentors and teachers and just the skeptical sort of mind I had. And, you know, I never really felt connected to religion, so I always sort of kept me questioning things. And so, yeah, so I know what you mean. Well, I thought you did a great job weaving it all together. So you're now in Russia. Now I
No, no,
know part
no,
of
no. My
not no, you're
research
not
is
in Russia. I'm
focused on
sorry. Your
Russia.
your research
Yeah,
has got you there, right?
I
Okay,
am still, yeah, I'm still in the Republic of China. Yeah.
okay. So
Yeah.
your research has you in Russia. Where are you now with that? And because for people that don't know, there is this flag that Russia
Right.
has
Yeah.
that seems to have some sort of symbolism where they're actually killing or defeating the griffin, which my understanding through your research and others is the griffin was sort of the flag or the symbol of the Tartarians. Where
Yes.
are we with that? Where what happened?
Right. I mean, it was pretty extreme. I can't. I don't believe that this event was a particular, and this is where you have to start embracing the supernatural, because I
Mm,
don't think this was. There were some large conquests of very large land masses, but this was World War One. World War One was not between Germany and Britain or France or Russia. World War One was the invasion of the European Moorish royalty back then, who didn't have to pretend to be white, because there was no kind of white Caucasian Slavic uh, sort of danger at that point. We weren't organized as fellow Caucasus Asians. The only reason why we currently have this situation where everybody's face is white and all the presidents are supposedly elected, right? Is because of that, the end of that war, which dealt with the complete removal of this Tartarian Empire. Now, the Tartarian Empire does not mean Tartar and Aryan. It's actually just two deities. So you have like the sort of Islamist, Zionist, Muslim Persians, which would be the Aryan race. Aryan does not mean pale-skinned European at all. That's a very big misdirection, intentional
Mm.
misdirection. In fact,
Mm.
it's so bad now that there's no correct history anymore being taught at
Mm.
school. Yeah. So the Tartar, which is always referred to as black, because the tar is black. Like Tartaria, Tarsus was the Greek land ruled by and built by giants, right? Tartarus, and then you have Tartar, which also has giants that obviously built that realm. So it's the same thing. We're talking about the same place. We're talking about the people who escaped the first flood, which was at Atlantis. We always think of Atlantis as a specific city or landmass or country, but it's not. It's the whole world. We think of Mauritania as one specific place, but it's not. It was the whole world. So the Moors ruled the whole world. That's the only way to explain star forts in every country. There's star forts in Taiwan, star forts in China, star forts in Japan, star forts obviously in Holland, Germany, France, Belgium. Yeah, every part of the world has star forts, including Africa, especially I think South Africa. There's a few. Russia has many star forts. So star forts are one of the great technological advancements of the Moorish Empire. So what happened in World War One, which I was talking about at the start, is World War One was this invasion of all of these empires, these Moorish kings. Now, if you don't believe that the European royal families are all black, then that's really what you should tackle first. You should find that out. Now, the problem is a lot of people are racist, or at least have a kind of subtle racist sort of bias, but that's just the brainwashing that's stopping you from getting to the truth. So I don't have that.
Mm.
I'm not racist at all. I'm very open minded to absolutely anything, as long as it's the truth and I can prove it in three or
Mm-hmm.
four different ways. So it's actually not that hard to prove that the original European royalty were black Iberian Peninsula sort of Africans that came from North Africa. This all started in 711 AD with Tariq ibn Zayed, who led the Moors and Persians to invade Spain. Now they wanted to invade Spain because they wanted to control the trade into that northern landmass that is today Europa, which is another Moorish queen, Europa. So if you find out all of that, and then you realize that the Tower of Babel was Egypt, that's where they began to teach everyone new languages, and then you realize that Arabic, Hebrew Aramaic comes from and Hebrew Aramaic then became Yiddish, which is like one of the oldest languages on earth, and then that became German, and then that again was altered to become French, and then you have English, which is the reverse Hebrew, which is like a negative language. So you have all these negative contractions that you use when you speak English, like haven't you, aren't you, couldn't you, yeah. So what I've worked out is that if you look at the English language and you can trace it back to like Hebrew, not because there's two types of Hebrew. There's the old Hebrew and the new Hebrew. Like there's two types of German. There's High German, Low German. So you have to be careful. You have to make sure you don't use the new Hebrew because you'll never get anywhere. That's full of dead ends because that was rebuilt in the 18th century, like 19th century. That's not the real Hebrew. That's not the old Hebrew. So that helps you also translate the Bible properly. Like, for example, Jesus wasn't a carpenter; he was a stonemason. There's no concept of homosexuality. It's all about pedophilia. That's what split the Talmud and the Bible. That pedophilia was the most abhorrent thing, as opposed to in the Talmud where pedophilia is spoken of. So all of these things fit together very very well, and I think that's the real true origin of World War One, that there was this invasion of what is today known as America, and America was actually the true Africa. That's very hard to convince people. I mean, first you have to convince people that the original kings and queens of Europe were swarthy, like the Black King, the Black Prince. They were all called Black King, Black Princes, and there's many records of them being swarthy. I could probably deal with one or two of those in case people are really not able to follow that. Like the Irish and the Scottish, they're from the tribe of Levi. Both the Irish, Scottish, and Celts are from Tia Tepe, which is Hebrew. That's the princess Tia Tepe. So that's David's bloodline. And they brought with them like the stone of scone, which they have to put underneath the throne. For many centuries, they always put that underneath the throne for you to become king. So this is an Egyptian queen who escaped to Spain because she knew more Spain was going to be friendly to the Egyptians after the fall of that particular Egyptian dynasty, and then she ends up her name was Scotta, by the way. So
Hmm.
the name Scotland comes from her, Scotta. And then at the fall of Troy, one of the Brutus, I think, escapes the fall of Troy, ends up in what we today know as Britain after his name, Brutus. Yeah. So Britanny. So this is gonna blow your mind. Okay. So this is all before World War One, of course. I'm talking about like ancient history. So I'm just
Sure.
trying to set the scene for these black kings already being in Europe and being in Britain, which is also technically part of Europe, I guess. So so the, so all of this history is here, and you have these like red-haired giants running around that they have to defeat first. And then you have all of the large bones, the myths of the Celts, the red-haired giants. The Romans built that wall, to stop the Scottish coming back down south into England because they're too big. They couldn't fight them. They were giants, you know. So then you have Giants Causeway, all of these references to giants in the northern United Kingdom. So all of this stuff fits together, and then Hadrian's Wall, because the Romans can't do it either. These people are too big. So what's fascinating here is that this is an Egyptian queen ends up in Scotland and builds her own kingdom. Now they have a god called what's the god's name? I forgot the name. Kanunos is the god, and the god has horns, just like Baphomet. Yeah. So Baphomet is not Satan. Baphomet is the creator god who protects wildlife. Can you see what I mean? So when you're
Yes.
looking at Baphomet and all the lies associated with Baphomet, then you look at Egypt and who's the most powerful god that they never talk about in Egypt? They talk about Set, Anubis, Ra. They talk about all these gods, but they never talk about the creator god.
Is it
Now, the
Aten or
creator god in Egypt is absolutely mind-blowing because it's almost exactly the same as Kanunos, the Irish god for fertility, for giving birth, everything. So the Egyptian god is called, I think, Kanuna or something. It's insane. But they never talk about him. You see. So Egyptian creator god. I want to get the name right. The Egyptian creator god uh, and fertility god as well. He has a snake in one hand. Uh, it's not coming up. Oh, a Captunos. So it's almost the same name, the same like the same face, the same. I think he has the head of a goat. So the goat is not demonic. The goat is not evil. The goat is the creator. What if you end up like, going up to meet the creator and it's a goat in front of you and you're like, what? I thought this was the devil.
oh
Everything is
yeah.
exactly a mirror. It's exactly mirror thing. It's a mirror. It's a mirror world. This whole world, and I'm gonna probably be able to describe a lot of other things to you that are the exact opposite.
You
So
you
New
I
York is
know.
all Troy because York backwards is Troy because the Y and the T were interchangeable before the vowel shift in the 1700s.
Well, I know you were talking
They
about some
messed
of the common
everything upside down.
sayings. Yeah, you used
Sorry.
to say like some of the common sayings. Like one just example, you were talking to Campbell and you said something about the early bird gets the worm,
Right.
but that's
Right.
only half
Yep.
of it. You're
No,
only getting like
I have
half
a
truths
hundred of
or
these, bro. I can talk about
yeah.
these all day. Like there's so many. Even in Latin, in
You can
Roman
make a
Latin,
book.
they also did it. like even universities in the UK, they have the like the various sort of phrases, and even they got it wrong. Even they got it wrong. Like this is like an age of awakening for sure. Like carpe diem, seize the day, is not even the saying. It's not the saying. The saying in the reverse, because Hebrew and Latin you also have a connection. So it says carpe diem qua minimum credula postiro, which means seize the day but trust in tomorrow.
Interesting.
Seize the day is now. Tomorrow is not now. Tomorrow is not this day. Tomorrow is the next one. So you're supposed to trust in tomorrow. You're not supposed to seize the day. So seize the day. I mean, care about everything that happens today, everything you had planned, all the things you hope to accomplish. But you have to look at tomorrow, because that's
Right.
what you're supposed to be preparing for. Every
Right.
day is a preparation for the day before, which is not the same saying, you know. And yeah, it's the same with a lot of these. Some of them are actually from the Bible, so some of them were written in Hebrew originally, but somebody is intentionally cutting them off halfway, you know. And who's doing that? I mean, is that some demonic entity? Because that's far too organized to be one scholar or one philosopher on their own. I think that's how the matrix is broken. You have to go a
Mm,
little bit further. You have to, instead of saying winning isn't everything, you have to look at the whole thing. It's not winning isn't everything. It's winning isn't everything. Winning is the only thing. What? You know, so that's a different, whole different
yeah.
mentality. It's a different way to look at the world, and it's actually channeling then ancient knowledge, just esoteric knowledge forever. Then you've got it forever, because you're not going to say, like, you know, all of these saying like great minds think alike. There are probably, I think almost every human being on earth has come across that in whatever language, right? So great minds think alike. Okay, great minds think alike. We must be great because we all have the same ideas. But the original Aramaic is great minds think alike, though fools seldom differ. What? If you're a fool, it's highly unlikely that you're going to have your own opinion and ideas. And that's the very essence of Tartaria, in my opinion.
Right.
Unless the majority of the world starts going into this, you know. But there's so much to it. It's not just about like English and the language. It's not just about what was World War One, or what was World War Two, or why did everybody want to attack America? What was America? Is America actually not a new world, but is it actually the oldest one? Is it the
Mm.
first one? Because according
No.
to my research, it's the first place. It's the Garden of Eden was there. Noah's Ark was built there. Gopher Wood is only exists there. You know, everyone knows that. I mean, scientists even agree with that. You know, mainstream
Yeah.
historians.
Can
And
you
then
can
you've
you
got obviously,
describe
you know.
can you describe what this more civilization was like? What this worldwide, what was the monetary system? What did they how did they eat? How did I would love to imagine and go into the fourth dimension in my meditations and manifest this world, but I don't even know what it kind of even looks like. I have pictures of it and my imagination is definitely wild.
Hmm.
But yeah, can you sort of speak to that? What was it like? Airships and, clean, healthy
Yeah, I
what?
mean, the Moors invented airships. They were the first people to do that. If you look at the history of the airship, you'll find that it was actually a black man. But the black man that invented the airship is probably going to be like categorized as a slave, right? I mean, that's what they always say, but that's a lie. It's almost always a lie when they say the black inventor was a slave or bought his freedom or something, because
Mm,
the Native American does look like a black man. So the number of slaves that were brought over, it doesn't seem logical. I mean, if you look at the sheer number of ships, and then you can't find the name of any ships really. If you search for it, there's only like the Amistad, I think, is like the only one that I found. Like there's hardly any slave ships. There should be thousands of those, and the numbers don't really add up when you look at the population of America and the percentage of Native Americans. And then you realize that when you actually talk to these people in different communities that are in touch with their origins, they do kind of sometimes know exactly which native tribe they come from. They can pretty
Yeah.
much trace that back to way before slavery. So no, I think that you can't understand Europe without looking at them more, and you definitely cannot fully comprehend the history of the United States. Behind me is a collage made of like different buildings. Uh, these are from the St. Louis World Exposition, the Chicago World Fair, the Panama Expo. Um, I think that was 1904. This is the Tower of Electricity. This is like 1889. So this is the heritage of the North American continent. This is the architecture. These are the ancient cities. We were on a very low frequency for many centuries, and we were able, and many decades, we were able to just accept the lies, the very blatant lie that these were temporary buildings built for a fair to make a little bit of money, to show America's new kind of age of architectural extravagance. But the truth is that these were the original Moorish cities. Some of them were too big to destroy. So Chicago, uh, Chilaga was the original name. Then you have like uh, Califia, the Queen Califia. So they used her name as the name for California. Then you have Manhattan, which was a reference to the people who had brain damage because of the magnesium inside the hat. So the Mad Hatter references.
Mm.
So everything is I found has got a connection to something.
Mm.
So
Yes.
they used to create top hats that gentlemen would wear as a sign of stature, and these were laced with various types of metals like magnesium, mercury. Now that caused, I think, a certain type of malfunction in like the synapses firing or something. That's what they attributed it to. So a lot of these people were called Mad Hatters because they wore a hat and they were a little bit crazy. So Manhattan was sold for like I don't know, three horses and a bag of potatoes or something.
Yeah.
It was quite
Bag of
funny, the
smokes.
story. A pack of cigarettes, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I mean, when you look at the geometry of these world fairs and the crazy sort of like purchasing of St. Louis from France back to Great Britain,
Mm.
some of those stories will give you some interesting insight because I think there's a little bit of truth in everything. So when I see the geometry of this large structure, and by the way, those people have now gone quiet. Those people who were always giving me a hard time about this theory that the expositions and the world fairs were actually permanent structures that were expertly made by people that were far more sophisticated than anyone in the 1800s using chisel, hammer, and horses and wagons. The theory is that there was scaffolding, there were photos with scaffolding. I've saved those photos because I knew at some point they would be removed and they would come up with a new theory. Because building scaffolding to uphold a wooden structure and not incorporating the structure into the final building is absolutely insane. It doesn't make sense. And then to say that you use this plastical staff and then paint the whole building white, but at the same time have the ability to not only support multiple stories, because these buildings could be visited. You could go into them. They had stairways. They had rooms. There are photos from the rooms taken on different angles. Then you have the most important thing to me personally, which is the incandescent bulbs, which in the 1890s were not only extremely expensive, but they were almost impossible to find. I mean, even if you had Tesla and every other famous inventor at the time helping you build this temporary fair for like a year or two, would you be able to even raise the finances to have literally hundreds of thousands of those light up the city at night? it's not just impossible. It is fantasy. It's pure fantasy. So not only is the history of like Tesla and the invention of the incandescent bulb wrong, we were also much more advanced in as much as we had wireless electricity, because that amount of copper wire would have surely destroyed any of those structures. And then to hide that so you can't see it, but at night everything lights up. Again, I don't know what was going on there, but it's definitely just simply a part of American history that's just being removed and hidden. And then the story is almost like an insult to anyone's intelligence when you look into it. But again, that's not all. There's always more. So now, recently, about 6 months ago, the Improbable Dreamer and a JC, so a JP follows JC, also started to post these videos of water irrigation within the archway of one of the main towers, and that was water being filtered down from one of the dams. So now we're talking about a network of underground, water pumps. So they must have. I don't even know how that's possible unless you build the pumps inside the buildings and then the buildings cover the pumps. So you never see the pumps, because underground water pumps like that, that's unheard of in the 1800s, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
large underground. I
Yeah.
mean, that's like an ancient city. I'm talking about a capital city of a large country probably can afford to build underground tunnels, water irrigation, sewage. Even in the Middle East, those big new cities, those beautiful cities what everyone's going on about, like in Qatar and Saudi Arabia, even they don't have underground plumbing yet. They still haven't got that sorted. That's why they have thousands of trucks coming in and out of the city every day with sewage.
Yeah.
Nobody talks about that. It's horrible. It stinks. Some people, people even blog about that. Like, oh, do you know that there's like 150 trucks taking the sewage out of like the center of some of these new beautiful modern cities that they built in the desert. Yeah, because you don't have water irrigation there. You don't have. That's hundreds of years of building the tunnels, the sewage systems. You have to separate those from the fresh water. Then you have to somehow pump up water from the Hoover Dam. I don't know, like what's
Yeah. I was going to
those are
ask you about
permanent
that.
cities that have been there for hundreds of years, and they are part of the Moroccan age of America. So this is like one of the biggest theories that I'm trying to find more
I mean,
proof of.
I grew up here in St. Louis, Missouri, so I literally grew up across the street from Forest Park. So that's always been a
Wow.
big part of my growing up is admiring those buildings and then seeing obviously the photos and all of that. But one of the things that it's always got me is that I would hear like it just in the hip hop world. I would hear black guys and black girls talk about they were kings and queens. And I always just thought to
Yep.
myself, I don't know, that was just a couple of rappers, Nas or Kanye or somebody was talking about it. But then it was like I kept hearing it over and over. That so who are they fighting? Who are the Moors fighting for this land? Who's the entity or who are the folks behind the evil,
Right.
man?
Right. Okay. So this is a great question, because I think I'm pretty much like the only one who's trying to answer that. So when I've looked into it in like more detail, I've realized that, and I think a few people agree with me on this who also understand this history. I think that we are talking here about two different Moorish empires. One is the American Moors, and one is the European colonies that became more powerful than the original empire.
Mm.
So we are talking about black nobility invading the original black nobility. This is in my opinion the only thing that fits. And this theory of mine has not
Civil
been
War.
undermined. Yes, but
Wow.
there is a big difference between the colonies. Almost every empire, from the Greeks to the Romans to the Etruscans to the Phoenicians, even the Carthaginians, when they invaded Rome and they conquered Rome, this is also removed from our history. When the Carthaginians, Hannibal conquered Rome with his elephants. When they started to rule Rome, uh, when they started to rule Rome, Same with the like Persian invasion of the Iberian Peninsula, Portugal, Spain, France. When they invaded, they built something more beautiful than when they where they came from.
Mm.
Every one of them. Every one of them. Yeah. When even with Britain, when the British Empire started to rule the world, like some of those places that you go to look much more impressive than even Oxford, London, Cambridge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost every time when an empire leaves and starts again, it doesn't make the same mistakes. It builds beautiful things. Like it puts all of its energy into this new kind of world because I think everyone wants to go there. Everyone wants to check it out. Everyone wants to
Mm.
invest. Everyone wants to be part of it. So the Moors built in Europe something 100 times better than where they came from, Benin, Algeria, even Egypt, where they came from. The Persians couldn't have entered Europe ever if they didn't go through through the Moorish land, Mansa Musa's land, right? If they didn't go through that land, they would never have got there. They had to make a deal. So in the end, the Moors had to lead the army because they wouldn't have allowed it, any other way. And I think we're being lied to about who rules Europe today. I think even to find out the three most powerful German Moorish families, like the Saxe Coburg, the Gotha, sorry, Saxe Gotha, the Coburg, the Habsburg, all of these, when these powerful land owning families and Gulev, which nobody talks about, the House of Gulf. Nobody talks about this. It's never mentioned. It's only my research that's shown that there is that the most powerful house is never spoken of. That when they conquered, sorry, when they decided to move to Britain and then have all of their princes marry different queens from like the Tsar Nicholas, King George, Kaiser Wilhelm, right? All of those guys were cousins and brothers. They were all Queen Victoria's offspring, right? Or family lineage, right? So they ended up ruling the whole world basically. So you've got like Germany, the Holy Roman Empire, then you've got Russia, Tartaria, and you've got Great Great Britain, the biggest navy at the time. So you've got the three most powerful empires all being ruled by the same family, and they call themselves Windsor to soar through the wind. I don't know how they make these names up, but no reference to the Saxons, Saxe Gotha, no reference to Coburg, the Coburg castles in the German mountains, no reference really to the Habsburgs, which is obviously one of the most powerful Central European families. Um, uh, but all of that happened as a result of the revolutions, in my opinion, when they started seeing like the Bolshevik Revolution, when obviously Tsar Nicholas was killed and his family was murdered. Now, some people are saying that they never got murdered; they did escape, but who actually knows what happened? And then obviously you have the French revolutions, which happened in the when was the French Revolution? Like 1780s.
Mm-hmm.
So the French Revolution was 1789, and the coup Brumaire. This was 9th of November 1799. So there's a lot of numerology there, which means that none of those events might have actually occurred. But the French Revolution, when you start getting kings and queens being beheaded and they're basically putting an end to the black monarchy because all of those people were black. All of the French nobility were swarthy colored. So it was a war between the white slaves and the black nobility, which is the complete opposite of what we're told. We're told that black people were slaves, white people were the slave owners, and I think what happened in America was basically the Moorish Empire being removed, or trying to remove the Moors from America, and then slowly changing the description of these people. Like first they would be Moors, then they would be called uh, Africans, right? Then then the bad words started happening. The N word, things like that, and people would start to just target people of a darker skin tone after a while.
Okay,
Uh,
so
uh,
we've got the
yeah.
Moors that were here in America, that kind of the Gulf Coast area, but then we also have what we would know as Native Americans. How do those two groups, were they coexisted? That was the Native Americans here in the United States and the Moors, they coexisted here, and there was no such thing as racism or anything or something.
Yeah, so America or Morocco or Tamari, which was the original name, that was the empire ruled by Jesus as king. So that was the original, the people of Mu, the people of the world.
Mm.
Now Mu went underwater. Mu was in East Asia, I think. No, the Pacific. So the continent of Mu went all the way from China to like America, Cuba, right? So a lot of things changed when you had this large flood, which is also the biblical flood. Now, that seems kind of crazy because the biblical flood was supposed to have been many thousands of years ago. Well, many thousands of years have been added on. Fictitious history has been added on to our timeline. If you look in old churches, you will see a lot of like dates where the first number actually looks more like a J or an I. Well, that's just a mistake. Like people who woke up and repopulated these large cities just had no idea what they were looking at, so they just wrote in, it must be 17 now because it looks like a 1 and a 7 and an 8 and a 3. But actually it wasn't a 1 and a 7 at all. I mean, there's a church in Germany that I went to. They have the old gravestones, they have the mausoleums, they have the vestibules with the big history etched into rock. People have gone over that on purpose and added other weird symbols because they don't want anyone to know that we're
Mm.
actually all Arabic speaking people who've been given a new language that is a simplified version of Hebrew. They don't want you to know that. They don't want you to know what English is, where it comes from. That everything we're saying is backwards. When we say good morning, we're actually saying, "Oh, I am sad about your death." you know, when we say, "Let's write a sentence," we're actually saying, "Well, I am sentencing you to some kind of curse." Right? We're cursing people all the time. We say negative things all the time. Like when we say "I," we're actually saying Antichrist. That's actually the symbol for the Antichrist. So we're constantly there's so many things that we're doing that we don't even realize. Like even saying hello, hell. Why would you say hell to
Mm.
someone the
Good
first
point.
time you meet them? It's an insane language that's been
Good
designed
morning.
to
Hello. Yeah, I mean, god dang.
hell. Well, don't say that. Heaven. say something else. Yeah. So then we have a day, and we're in days. Every day is a days. So we're not really awake. We're half asleep. Then you get the weekend, which means we're weak. Now every weekend we're saying it's the weekend. So we're what? We're like cursing ourselves to be weak, to not be capable of accomplishing anything.
It's
We
true.
have a job just like Job, like endless trials until we die. Do you know what I mean? Because God's testing us. All of this language has been taken from the Bible. So you need that knowledge. You need to understand the Bible, whether you use it for what it's meant to be for, whether you ever discover what it's meant to be for. Because there's so much there about like the tree of life. In the Garden of Eden. Like, where was that? Is that actually built into obelisks? Are those trees of life built into obelisks? My research has shown that
Mm.
Washington D.C. used to be a tree that they slowly covered up with brick in order to stop it from sprouting. Is it that if you eat one of if it blooms and you eat that tree, like who are these people working for? Are they working for people trying to enhance, get us back to the millennial reign when we could build all these buildings, manifest all these great structures? Or are we actually now being completely beaten down, like Orwell says, like a boot stamping on our consciousness forever? But I think there's always a way out. I think that your spiritual connection is the way out. Talking gives life to these ideas. Uh, we are discussing them. I am actually just communicating with you using sound that you've associated with meaning. So it's just frequency. It's telepathy over thousands of miles. So this is magic right now. Like
I know.
electricity is life too. I mean, our heart is not pumping blood through our body. It was never meant to do that. I mean, that's not even a realistic concept. It's a coil, a Tesla coil, if you like, creating electricity because that's the defibrillator that you use when somebody's had a heart attack. They know the truth. They just don't want to tell us, you know? And I think that's the
Right.
game. The game is like, how much truth can you get in your lifetime? Because the more you give, the more you get back. That's the game, you know? If we could see more than ultraviolet to infrared, it would be a really scary place. The amount of dragons, the amount of entities that had to shift into different kind of spectrums just to continue to exist because we want to kill and destroy everything. So I think killing the black dragon is about killing Tartaria. Back to your original point, I think that the Tartarian griffin, which is this kind of beautiful yellow flag with this griffin, which I have many examples of. There was the Grand Tartary, and then there was the smaller European, like for example, in Eastern Europe, there was the like Little Tartary, I think it was called, and they had an owl. They chose the owl instead of the griffin. And then China kind of took that later on because China was in World War One. China was given a lot of power by the British government to be able to get through the wall, which was not the wall of China. That was also Tartaria. You can tell the arrow slits are all facing towards China. Those settlements on the coast, because they wanted to keep those people out because they didn't know who they were. They obviously, what happened in the end is that you get a big empire like the Moorish British Empire, which ends up being like a new Troy, trying to reconquer old Troy. So I mean, the city names are all from history. That like you can work out pretty much all of them where they all come from. So the original Morocco was actually in America. So the people that are the Native Americans are the Moors. Yeah, that's the country of their
Wow.
origin. Yeah, I think California is the only place on Earth that has this like four-headed river system where all the heads of the rivers join. So there's some really old maps that I'm not sure how they were able to draw those, but I don't know how. Still, even today, like how were they able to draw these accurate maps of these areas? I have one from the 1600s which shows a koala bear in a country called Australia, 300 years before Australia was discovered, supposedly in our history. So I did put a video of that up. I can put that up again, maybe on my Facebook. Yeah, but someone sent me that, and I was like, "What?" I mean, there you go, black and white. You know, well,
Yeah.
not black and white. It's like yellow and off white. but but koala bears in Australia, I think it was 1590s. You know, they already knew all of that. Yeah, yeah. So there's not much new discoveries, not many new discoveries happening. Like even
Do you
when you
think
look at
that's
electrical
intentional?
cars,
Do you think there's more land that they hide? Do you think there's a place outside of, other realms outside of this plane, or I don't know where you are, heliocentric, geocentric guy, or matrix? I'm more of a matrix kind of like I can believe in anything at this point.
yeah, no, I mean, none of my theories would work. Like especially the distance between America and Egypt wouldn't work on a globe like spherical Earth. That theory wouldn't happen. I mean, you couldn't get from the Grand Canyon to Egypt. But if you look at like Urbano, the old Italian Venetian maps, you can get from America Grand Canyon to Egypt. Yeah. And then
Wow.
while I was researching it, this is insane. While I was researching it, there was a news article, I think it was CNN, that there was some immigrants making their way through the Grand Canyon from Africa.
You know what? I swear I
Did you
saw
see that?
something like that too. I did. No, were they
Yeah.
Indian? Part of me was thinking they were from India, and they walked, and they were like they got picked up by border patrol. Now it could be a different video, but
Okay.
yeah, I see the point.
Well, if it happened once, it's happened before. So
Yeah, just really quite
uh,
interesting. I know, I've lived here. I did a little bit of, my wife and I have a van, and so we drive around the Southwest, and as we go visit our kids in California, and the Southwest of United States is absolutely the most mystical, fantastic place. But it looks like it's absolutely been devastated. Direct energy weapons.
oh
I don't
yeah,
know what the hell. The sun decided to sit on it. It's nuked, and things are
yeah.
melted. There appears to be, at least from my perspective, there seems to be structures there that were either melted or purposely deformed to hide particular civilizations or something like that. But the whole Southwest sort of just feels like some sort of weird energy that's maybe been part of the Civil War or something between the Moorish factions. I don't know. Your
Yeah, there
thoughts
was
on that?
a war. There was a war between the Yamasee and the British, which was well documented by the Dutch. Interestingly enough, I don't know how the Dutch came upon that. Maybe they were obviously trying to grab the same landmass or
Mm,
the same area. Uh, and uh, and Alabama is actually a Moorish name, so that is a historical name, Alabama too. Al Like a lot of the names are Egyptian in America. Almost like
yes.
you'd be surprised. And then there's the pyramids. They don't call them pyramids. They like to call them mounds. But if you go into any detail there, then you have like I think 140 mummified sarcophagi found within the Grand Canyon during the first Smithsonian expedition. Sorry. Then you have the Orpheus eggs or the Lucky Charms with the hieroglyphs that were found and still being found all over the Grand Canyon. Yeah, I mean, there's a book written by Cece Kincaid. I actually have a record of. I read this last year, and it gave me some real interesting information about the original names of the cities and how they are the states, and the original Confederate flag, which was also native Moroccan flag. So the Moroccan flag originally was always scissors, two scissors, and then stars on the outside. The Confederate flag is the same exact geometry, same colors, but then you have the stars on the line. Now the scissors are actually not scissors. They do appear to be scissors. They're on exactly the same flag of all nations as Tartaria was at the time, next to China. So you have that link to the two sabers, which was the predominant Moorish weapon of the
Mm,
Saracens at the time, right? Um, yeah. The interesting thing here is uh, the uh, the Carolinas, which were I think they were called Morisca, right? So that's a Spanish word for more. So they already knew, like the Spanish the Spanish knew who they were going to go find. They had maps. They knew where the cities of gold were. There are seven cities of gold in the Grand Canyon, all destroyed. All underground could be millions of things. Like literally, there were cities. So underground, after that great cataclysm, that all of that stuff is still there. In the next 1,000 years of excavation, you wouldn't be able to get everything.
mm.
So the proof is in the Grand Canyon. So how does the government stop people finding out the truth? You have to just simply make it illegal to go there. That's all you can do. Because there's
Is that
there's
what the
literally
national parks are?
centuries of excavation could be done there. You would find gold, hieroglyphs, mummies. It would be common knowledge in a few years if they allow people to look through there.
Mm.
A few years from now, if people could go into the Grand Canyon, you would not think of Egypt as Africa. You would think of America as Africa because it's got more proof that Babylon was Cairo, and that those pyramids are just the base of those large towers that they built. The Tower of Babel, where which is a biblical place, which is not far, can't be far from the original land. So the more is just the. I mean, look at the Olmec statues in like South America. I mean,
Yeah.
the more you look into it, the more you start to realize, oh, okay, it's kind of It's kind of obvious. Hang on a minute. Mainstream history is so far off the truth. It's such a beautiful feeling once you come to the other side and you realize all make heads. You know, are those connected in any way, shape, or form
Right.
to the origins of North America too? Were they all found in Mexico? Oh, hang on, they weren't all found there. Okay, step pyramids are very commonplace all around the world, from Bosnia to China to Namibia. I think there's one in Gambia. We like how many pyramids are in America? Just Google that. I mean, even Google's
Yeah.
not going to stop you finding out, right?
Do you subscribe to some sort of outside, civilization coming to our plane and influencing the natives here, the originals, the Neanderthals, the I don't know what to call them. What are your
Mhm.
thoughts on that? Let's get a little metaphysical or something. Anything weird like that? What are your thoughts?
Yes, I think that there are entities that have come from other places that are not part of this realm. Yeah, for sure, 100%. I think that the technological advancements since like the 20th century have been too fast and too many. It's like
Mm,
some very powerful entity is under pressure to whisper secrets into the right ears, to
mm,
create weapons, death, killing, mass destruction, constant fear, constant distractions from this exact thing we're doing now, which is looking at the origin of you know our human race. No one's doing this. No one's allowed to. Most people are not allowed to even to talk about this stuff. Like Calloway should have written hundreds of books. He just wrote one, that America is the true old world. Yeah. Like how can you create one book on probably the most fascinating possible topic, and then suddenly you have these myriads of like legions of demons, probably, just like trying to affect you, trying to affect people around you, usually, right? And then yeah, then you can't talk about Genesis. You can't talk about the first three books of Genesis, which people seem to not want to talk about. And because you can tell what's right and wrong after a while, because your intuition gets really good.
mm.
And if we have good intuition, I think we will make less mistakes. And yeah, there were demonic entities, very powerful things, thrown down to earth from the heavens. Some people call them aliens. I just call them fallen angels. To be honest, I think that there were angels um, that were not happy with the job or the duty that they were created for.
Mm,
And there is such a difference between like a Homo sapien, like our brain stem, our ability to conceive of the spiritual, that we may all find that we're related to some extraterrestrial entity.
mm,
And I mean, there have been many great movies about the idea of angels and demons and Satan, the leader of those angels, and then the other angels that changed their mind and decided to fight for us instead of against us. But every angel was once, or every one of these sort of angles of light was at one point perfection. Whereas I think that when we were born, we already were kind of deteriorating, or supposedly are not at any point in time perfect. Even if you go back to like near the very dawn of history and the dawn of mankind, people seem to have a much higher resonance. Like you got people like Abraham, Enoch. These people lived a long time. You have like Enoch actually translated. He didn't die. When you read the book of Enoch, you find out so much more important information that was in the Bible, obviously originally, before King James removed so many things. Pope Gregory before that. So when you find out that you can translate, which means that you are not actually dying, you are simply ascending to another place. You are ascending to a different sort of algorithm, I guess, if you want to look at
mm.
it in like computer speak, if you like. But how many people have been transcending? You know, when I watched a movie called, I think it was, what's it called? It was with Julianne Moore, and all these people are like being sucked up into the sky. That's a demonic interpretation of the greatest gift that God can give you to ascend, right? Which okay, people might be waiting on top of their houses thinking that, oh, if I stand on the roof of my house on the right day at the right time, like Zoroastrians, right? If they stand on the at the right time on the right day, the right time of the day, the right year, you know, they will have a chance to ascend, to be taken up in the mothership, they call it, yeah. And many hippies actually went on this. They got very fanatical about that concept. But I don't think, I mean, it's not, obviously logically, it's not, that's not how it happens. It's not going to happen like that. Enoch was just simply a man who proved something to God, and and he was translated into heaven. So that's where the word translated comes from. Yeah.
Wow.
And that's a great thing to find out if you look at the book of Enoch. There are a lot of books missing from the Bible. The Bible originally had 88 books. We only have 66 left. This numerology sometimes is being perverted into something negative, but 666 is not a negative number. It is not a demonic number. It is not Satan's number. It simply refers to the makeup of, I think, the human body, right? Carbon. So you have
Yeah.
six photons, electrons, neurons,
Carbon. Yeah.
neutron. Yeah, carbon. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's so fascinating. So you're in the same car as me. I see this as a spiritual war now. There's entities that are wanting to keep truth and seem to be okay. Giving us toxic food and spraying the air and keeping truth away from us. So what? How do you see this ending? How do you see? I saw your post recently on your Instagram. It was amazing. I love that kind of stuff. But you showed the angels, and it sort of was like, I think somebody in the comments said, "Are you suggesting that we're at the end of something, and that something is coming?" By that post, or
Yes. Yeah. I don't think there's that much time left. There are certain things that happened. I would say COVID was one of those that have taken away the freedom that was the fundamental foundation, the pedestal of Satan's argument. Satan's debate with God is a very specific one. And that's why some people decide to follow Satanists, right? And uh, the argument is that Satan wanted to turn against God. That was his decision, this freedom of choice that he had, right? To go against God. And he had a very, very obvious debate. He even continued that with Jesus. He tempted him. He said, "You can have all the kingdoms of the world right now. You can be king right now. I will give you America. I'll give you all of the Atlantis at the time." He would have had many more cities than he does now to give people, right? But when there's not one good man left, the city goes under. Now, is that going to hell or is it going to heaven? Is it a blessing? Is it a curse? He sits there in front of Jesus. He waits until he's hungry, until he's literally dealing with all the like pain that you can imagine a human being having, and he's then tempting him when he's at his weakest to continue his big debate. And as far as every demonic entity goes, every demonic entity can prove itself righteous and ascend back to heaven and continue to praise God, pick up their harpsichord again and their 88 strings and carry on doing what they were doing. Maybe they were given big jobs to do, like kill demons. Maybe they were given other jobs, like the most crucial job, which is like a sentinel or a guardian angel to protect children, to protect people at birth, right? But Satan wanted to go against that. He wanted to be free, and he wanted to tempt humans to be free, and he succeeded right at the start. The very first or second woman, technically, if you believe in the Lilith theory. So he gets the woman to turn the man, eat from the one tree that they can't eat from, and everything else they can eat from. Suddenly they become conscious of sin, conscious of what's right and wrong. suddenly feel like there's things that are wrong that are probably not really wrong. Suddenly they want to dress themselves up. They want to wear like loincloths. They want to they start to have their minds are starting to wander. And at some point, God said, "Okay, let's let's give everyone a fair shake. Let's give them all a chance to make their own decision. And when there's no humans left, then that's it. It's over for you.
Mm.
You're going to Sheol, Gehenna, the final, destruction of you as one of the greatest one of before Satan turned against God. He was one of the closest, angels, up there with Michael the archangel. And yeah, so so at some point, uh without having a devil of his own haunting him constantly, which we do, by the way. We have Satan constantly coming up with ways to trick us, to make us fornicate, make us make mistakes, make us do something evil, do something bad. Then he'll take it easy on us for a while. Yeah, if you're happy and you're comfortable and you're rich and you're famous, Satan's not going to bother you. He's not going to bother you because you're not looking into God. You're not looking into the truth. You're not trying to help anyone. You're happy. You're getting fat. You're getting happy. Your life is going to be pretty short. You'll never have a chance to awaken, right? You're completely calcified up here. There's no pineal gland connecting to spirituality, right? You're dead inside already. And I see those people everywhere, you know? If you have a lot of money, will you have any time to sit talk to me?
Mm.
If you were like a multimillionaire, you'd be traveling in a jet from France to Paris, to Paris to France, right? from You'll be going from like your house in Beverly. What's the like big like Mar-a-Lago or something, right?
Oh
You're
yeah.
you're not gonna have time to sit on think about the meaning of life. You're gonna be 80 before you think about the meaning of life, and then it's gonna be too late, and then you're gonna have to start again as a baby. Or if you've done
Oh,
something evil, you'll be some other creature. That's pretty logical to me, because that's
we
also
seem to
mentioned
be.
in the Bible. Nebuchadnezzar had to start living like an animal even within his single lifetime, because of his transgressions. If you're clever enough, God is listening, and if you continue to speak to Him, He will continue to listen to you. And you're talking to the Creator. Like, why would you want to waste your time with some lesser entity? Unless it's sent by Him to give you some instruction, obviously. Yeah. It just seems like, yeah. I mean, the one thing that gets me with especially this concept of the devil, who isn't Lucifer, who isn't Beelzebub. That's not the same thing. There are many of these creatures. Okay, many of them were harnessed by one man. One man harnessed like 72 of them to build these Tartarian cities, and that was one of the kings of Tartaria, Solomon. So, and he would just use rotten fish and draw sigils on the floor, and just that was enough. Take away the rotten fish, and I'll build you a castle. I'll build you a city. I'll build you a star fort. Then you've got these like Borobudur in Indonesia, which has no toilets, no bathrooms, no kitchens. They're just having fun building things because they have this endless all of these things they were taught by God, but they sacrificed everything to come down here. And some of them ended up even like fornicating. Obviously all of that has been taken away. That ability now to even be seen by people has been taken away, which is quite harsh. So they have a lot of time on their hands, and they're always finding little ways to contact us, and I think that's where you get spiritism. That's where you get these kind of magais, these magicians, that are also manifesting people to look like humans, that are literally trying to trip us up all the time. But they are desperate. They are more desperate than you can imagine. They are in a very dangerous place, and if they can't fool us anymore, they no longer get any time. They no longer get any chance because their argument has failed. But Satan never had a devil haunting him. We do. So how powerful are we if we're still on the right side of the of this
Yeah,
reality?
that's a good point.
Satan had no Satan. There was no devil haunting Satan. He was the original one that made that decision to mess up God's creation, God's little Lego world. And how many of them are here now regretting everything they did? There's no way he's not regretting that. What kind of power did he have? I mean, think about what angels, the kind of power they have, the beauty of these creatures, and Like it's like being on a constant you know uh, journey of creativity. Creativity is the greatest gift we have. Try to talk to someone who's on drugs, who's like partying every day. See how creative they are. There's no creativity there. Some of them even lose the ability to think for themselves, to have internal dialogue. I've been there, by the way. So
Yeah, me too. Who do you think is the creator? I know there was a post out you made a comment on. It was a guy talking about just the importance of the mother in the
yeah,
reproductive, in the sort of entry into this realm. It's your mother.
yeah,
Your mother is the portal. Your mother is the first realm you live in.
yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? I know that was getting kind of scientific for me, and I'm not a biological, studies major, but
Mm.
it really was making me question a little bit of some of my thoughts about me choosing my mother or my mother choosing me, and just kind of playing with those and what the differences might be in that case.
Yeah. So there are some things that you've chosen before you came here. So a lot of people agree on well, a lot of people who have commented on this kind of topic and have agreed that your worst enemies are the people that you chose to be your closest circle of like family. So that's also the Buddhist Taoist religious view, which is one of the biggest religions on earth. That there's a yin and yang to it. So you have like a yin and yang, not yin and yang. So the yin is the idea that there is always a twin. So there's always two. I don't know about modern society. I know that this is a really scary topic to go into. So you need to be prepared for something pretty horrendous, which is that there's always another you. Uh, and my theory is that second you is kind of taken away at birth, or maybe sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're allowed to meet again. Have you ever seen the movie The Island with
Yes.
Scarlett Johansson, Ewan McGregor?
Yes. Yes.
Um, there's only ever one movie about that. I haven't seen many other movies about that.
It's a great
Maybe The
movie.
Running Man is kind of similar. So you get like this concept of another you exists, but you're never allowed to meet that person. And then at uh, some point when they have to maybe, I don't know, rein you in, maybe you're getting to because if you really understand how powerful humans can be, you have to look at like countries that are not under control. Like India is not under control, so you got like 300-year-old people there. So you've got like some countries that are just too spiritual. There's too many gods and angels entities, right? And they know everything already. So if you know everything, you're going to be in a monastery on top of a mountain, probably, just living off like sunlight. Okay. Now, so many people say that they're doing that, and then you realize actually they're lying. They're kind of eating secretly, and then you realize, oh, that's built. That's kind of designated misinformation. So they're trying to get you to completely turn your back on the whole concept. But living in Asia, you know that that's happening, and you know that that's very much happening today. There are monasteries all over the mountains, very hard to reach. When you finally get there, they give you lots of food for free, and you're like, "How did they get all this food?" And up this mountain, and then you realize, oh, they have their own farms, they're self-sufficient. They're the people that are going to be here after the next reset, and then they're
Mm.
going to go back into the cities just like we did, pick up all the hats and suits and think that this is what we're supposed to do. Walk around, super healthy looking people, by the way, all really tall and strong, nobody's overweight, and they're all wearing black like top hats because that's what the civilization before was wearing, and they found those. Then they found trains, then they found electrical vehicles, then they found a house that they liked, so they just, you know, like if you look at Beijing in like the 1800s, it's literally ancient Tartarian architecture every street, and just people putting their placards on top saying, "This is now my house, and we will be selling. What should we sell? Like tofu? Okay." It's insane because it all fits, man. Like you've got these people walking around, and they're all wearing the same clothes. They're all wearing like black suits,
At the
They're all
beach.
wearing cravats, waistcoats, and top hats, and you're like,
Yeah,
why is everyone wearing the same thing? Even the kids.
I agree.
What the
Is that all
hell
those
happened?
staged? I feel like a lot of those photos seem like somewhat staged or something, or
Yeah,
like
I mean, but it's like
airbrushed.
but when you take a photo in the 1800s, you have like an exposure time on these like silver like daguerreotypes of like 2 minutes. So you wouldn't see many people anyway. So
Mm,
if you saw someone, they'd have to be standing still for like 2 minutes or something.
mm,
So you see the streets though. You see the streets and you see the buildings and you see everything's dirty, full of mud, like it's just cut, like the water's just kind of drifted away, and it's scary, man. Like those old photos, and then you see that someone's been in a very kind of superficial way scratching the negative away because they don't want to show you all the buildings behind, or the probably hundreds of airships that were going, because
yes.
everyone had a tower, a clock tower called a mooring station. Funnily enough, mooring stations, that's a reference to some empire called Moor. So why are they all called mooring stations? Because that's how they traveled the world. And when you see a poster that tells you it's going from California to Paris in like a day and a half or something, then you start to think, hang on a minute, how's that possible? Because it takes you 17 hours now, or 14, 15 hours. So how were they doing it in an airship in like a day? You know, where are those airplanes going? Like,
Yeah.
because an airship doesn't move fast.
No, it's floating.
Yeah, you got posters. Like, what's the big one? The it's always like German posters as well. So it's like Hindenburg or Zeppelin going from like
Yes.
New York to Berlin, and London to Calcutta and stuff like that, right? Because those were like the big hotspots where all the hotels were. And how are they doing that in a day? I mean, you wouldn't even make a poster if it took you a week. What's the point? You don't want to sit in an
Yeah.
airship for a week.
And
But
they
you
had like
should. It should
bars.
be because that's how far it is.
Yeah, they had
Yeah.
like they were walking around. They had like yeah, these things were really quite
Yeah, they had
interesting.
restaurants. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, restaurants. I'm so hopeful. It's part of my things when I try to think about the future I want for myself is those are the kind of
Mm.
visions I have for the world. That we could
Yeah.
live in some sort of free energy, free travel, healthy food, and I think about
We
these
had that, man.
cities.
We had it. We had all of that.
Yes, that's kind of what bring this kind of what gives me hope. It's like it's if it's done before, we can do it again.
Can we do it? Yeah. Let's do it again. Let's have our own
Mm.
airship, mooring station on our house.
This is I'll be over in Taiwan in no time at all.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Well,
so
listen,
maybe there's something wrong with our maps. Yeah, maybe there's like land missing.
maybe. Well, I don't want to hog you, and I appreciate you spending time with me, and I would love to have more of these conversations. I mean, there was about 4 or 5 times during this conversation where I started getting goosebumps, where it's like that
Yeah,
electrical sort of feeling. You're hitting on something that's really resonating with me that actually produces a physical sensation. So
yeah. Frequency. Yeah.
yeah, I love this, and yeah, I would love to have you on down the road too.
Yeah, yeah, we should talk more about the war, the First World War, which was 1492 to 1775. Yeah.
Okay. Well, my friend, thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll catch up with you down the road.
Yes, this was great. Thank you very much, Chris, and I hope we can chat again soon. Yeah.
Thanks everybody for hanging out with it. I'll be on probably later tonight. Thanks again. Bye bye.
Bye bye.